Hi. A film I recently watched on the iPlayer is Martin Scorsese's Silence from 2016, and it's the story of a group of, a pair really, of Portuguese Jesuit missionaries who travelled to feudal Japan in the late 17th century in search of a brother priest who'd previously travelled there to try and convert people to Christianity and then gone missing. And they discovered that Japan is a harsh, brutal society where Christianity seems destined not to take root. I had a number of major problems with this film. I joked on Twitter that it's the worst remake of The Wicker Man since the last one. It's about devout Christians going to a remote island community which is of a completely different faith and society, and ultimately martyring themselves for their beliefs. Except The Wicker Man, even in its form of being a 90-minute horror film, has a great deal of depth and intelligence, and it treats the faith of the islanders, entirely fictional though it is, with a degree of respect. Until, of course, we get to the idea of human sacrifice, where it kind of goes out of the window. But for the most part, it's a film where you are actively challenging the prevailing course of opinion. Here, on the island of Summer Isle, it's the police officer, the figure of authority, who is the outsider, and it's the islanders and their way of life that seems far more appealing. In Silence, you have the Catholic priests who are stolid, upstanding, morally righteous individuals, and there is very little indication of any kind of what kind of belief system is going on in Japan. There are references to Buddhism. The fact that Buddhist monks were also being oppressed in Japan at the time is never mentioned. And it seems to be entirely about power. But the way the film phrases it, it's about two alien worlds rather than being a power struggle and foreign influence. So there is a tinge of racial tension which is not fully thought through, because if it had been thought through, I don't think it would even be there. So we have that problem. On the second level, sorry for the buzzing there, on the second level, there is that colonialism aspect of bringing the faith of the foreign country, civilizing the locals, who many of whom live in poverty, are farmers, labourers. So you're going to this foreign land, which is actually sophisticated in many ways, and I find it insulting to this day that the Catholic Church regards itself as a civilizing influence at any point in history, because it has always been a matter of power bases, and the film really should have been about power struggles rather than faith, because that's really what's going on. There are elements of absurdity to it that I don't think are intentional, like there's a scene where one of the two priests, having had to hide and preach in secret or at night, washes his face in a pool of water, and he sees reflected back at him the face of Christ. And overall, I feel as though the film has only received the acclaim it has because it's from Martin Scorsese, whose work seems to be immune from veneration, from being questioned. There is a veneration towards him, as we've seen recently, with so many people taking his side over. Again, sorry about the buzzing. So many people taking his side about the. I'm sorry about this. About the whole Marvel superheroes situation, which is, I think, far more nuanced than he's given the impression of. It's much more about capitalism rather than art. So I found the film depressingly Catholic. It assumes that the audience is already on the sides of the priests and will never question that point of view, when it should have been looking at, I mean, this is playing Monday morning quarterback, looking at these are struggling power blocks fighting against each other, and the faith of the population is the weapon that they use. Ultimately, the film is too long, too hollow. It has a very simplistic message about faith being incredibly important, and speaking as a humanist, I found it alienating and patronising, and one of Scorsese's least interesting films. I think it's a shame that he spent so much time trying to get the film made, because he seemed to have got completely up to his eyeballs in it and never stepped back to realise what a hollow, unexamined project it really was.